Hi there, Robert Wolf here with Terra Firma Business and Financial Consultants, and welcome back to our channel. Again, if you're a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing. Please feel free to give us thumbs ups on our articles and add some comments and maybe some suggestions of content as well. Remember, our goal for our channel is to focus on my book, Economic Termites, taxes, inflation, time, laws and regulations, and debt. And so the most detrimental of those termites is what? Laws and regulations, our lawmakers. And so today's article is to really kind of talk about how decisions have been made over the last couple years and what we're seeing as a result that is going to affect you and I as taxpayers. And so really we know now, especially in the last few months, in the last year or so, that a lot of the political decisions have been very detrimental to not just the economy, but to you and I as individual business owners. And the rhetoric that's out there is very divisive. And so we've been very, very open and clear about that in our videos and our channel, because at the end of the day, we really need to unify and work with each other. And so your leaders need to be very positive and forward and striving to accomplish that. And fortunately, sadly enough, that's not happening. So, but let's talk about more of what this particular article is about. I titled this IRS is in trouble, right? Which at the end of the day, that means we're in trouble. Okay. And what this article really is talking about, to summarize, is that how backed up the IRS is and how that's going to affect us. So I'm going to minimize my screen here. I'm going to be up here in the corner, and let's kind of dive into this. I'm going to back out just a tad because it is a little in your face. But IRS chief, we're facing enormous challenges this tax filing season. Okay. And so this is as of just a few days ago, and it was on Yahoo Finance. As the IRS begins this tax season, it continues to face enormous challenges. Our dedicated workforce has done everything it can to prepare for filing day on April 18th. Our immediate focus is simplifying the taxpayer's filing experience by streamlining the process, answering as many questions as possible, and reducing our historic inventories. Now, when the IRS is talking about historic inventories, what are they talking about? Well, what's the IRS collect? Tax returns. And so the IRS is back. They're back, backlogged for 2019 still. And so they've got an enormous challenge ahead of them. And this, the commissioner for the IRS is really expressing that. So listen to his tone as he talks here. Today, millions of people are still waiting for prior year's returns to be processed and refund checks to arrive in the mail while preparing for their upcoming tax filing. While we can't immediately solve these significant issues, our employees are doing everything they can, and I'm committed to returning to normal inventory levels before next year. The IRS is operating with stable multi-year funding in place, which creates additional impediments to our efforts to deal with our current situation. However, we have taken extraordinary measures to work through unprocessed returns and correspondences, including mandatory overtime by IRS employees, creating and redirecting surge teams to address the inventories, meaning that they're redirecting IRS employees from other departments into other different departments, which may or may not be trained in those departments. So there's an area of error that's going to occur, right? That just makes sense. Temporarily suspending certain automated compliance notices, modernizing operating systems to accelerate the manual processing of inventories. So there you go. They've got piles of paperwork in one corner of the business where they have employees that you can barely see their heads above the paper. They have other employees that are probably overworked and but backed up as well, but they're shifting those folks to put out this fire over here, right? And then what they're also trying to do is modernizing operating systems. Have you ever done that in your business? Upgrade your computers and your softwares? Everything goes really smooth, right? Absolutely. Now, think of the IRS, hundreds of millions of communications and papers, and it's just ridiculous, right? It's like Amazon all of a sudden just flipping a switch and saying we're gonna do everything different. Yeah, good luck with that, right? COVID hit us all while facing consequential resource challenges as a result of chronic underfunding. The IRS worked as hard as possible while taking on significant increase in responsibilities while also facing unprecedented challenges from the pandemic. It has been my privilege to lead the IRS since 2018 as we have worked through the successful delivery of more than 1.5 trillion refunds, $1.5 trillion in refunds. So that's pretty cool, right? That's good. Stimulus payments, advance payments of child tax credits, all during an excruciating pandemic. Through our work, we touch more Americans than any other private or public sector organization, and we are deeply proud to serve our country. Yes, this all accurate. All accurate. Okay? We're going to talk later on about consequences and consequences of decisions. For the current tax season, the IRS workforce has already delivered more than 4 million refunds worth nearly $10 billion just through February 4. And yet millions are waiting for their returns to be processed, and many won't be able to reach us when they call with questions as filing. This is frustrating for taxpayers and for us all. Now here's the thing. Not just taxpayers, but tax partners. Who's the IRS tax partners? CPAs, enrolled agents, licensed tax preparers. Okay, the IRS calls them partners. They're having a difficult time of getting hold of the IRS as well. We want to do more, but we face major challenges over the last decade. The IRS budget has been cut by nearly 20%. The agency today has as few employees as it did in the 1970s, despite a 60% increase in the United States population during that time and an unprecedented increase in responsibilities, while more than 90% of the over 160 million individual returns are filed electronically. But remaining people who file on paper lead to millions of time-sensitive, manual processed paper returns. Well, it sounds pretty simple. You require people to file electronically. That sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Now, I get that there are people who don't know how to do that. Well, maybe those people are doing their own taxes, and maybe they're doing their own taxes because all they're doing is getting a Social Security check. Well, you IRS have all that data already. So why are those folks even having to file a tax return? You know all their information already. What income they get, what their deductions are. So you cannot blame the increase of population. You cannot blame we only have the same amount of employees since the 1970s, okay? In the 1970s, everything was done by paper. Today you have technology to fill the gap. So you got to acknowledge, like you said, more than 90% of over 160 million individual returns are filed electronically. Okay? So what about the 10%? You're saying those 10% papers, I guarantee you, they're not businesses filing paper returns. Okay? Now, I do know the IRS requires when you do an amended return, meaning that you're fixing a return from previous years, they require you have to do it by paper. Okay? Unless it's just an individual return. But if you got a business and all this, it's very, very difficult to do it electronically. So, as we have seen across our country, technological improvements can do wonders to increase the efficiency of workforces and organizations without long-term predictable funding. The IRS will continue to face severe limitations, unable to provide the service taxpayers deserve and need. There are tangible consequences to American taxpayers who aren't able to receive the level of service they deserve, as well as the IRS's ability to enforce tax laws for ultra-wealthy tax cheats. Hang on. Okay? Now you're making the assumption that ultra-wealthy are cheating. The number one audited schedule on a individual tax return is a Schedule C. Ultra wealthy are not filing their taxes on a Schedule C. Okay? So if this were true, you would be spending more of your time auditing those ultra wealthy and not filing schedules or auditing the Schedule C. Okay? So again, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, bad rhetoric. Here's the divisive language I was talking about. This is an example. Okay? By the way, these ultra wealthy, how many people do they employ? Okay? So if you're looking to go after the Bezos, the Buffetts, the Musks, the Trumps, you fill in the blank, really? That's what you're doing? That's where you're spending your time? Right? These guys are already paying hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes. Sure, they're not paying the same percentages as you and I. Well, they don't need to. They've got multiple businesses. They're paying taxes on the income that they need and what they take as income. That's what the tax code is all about. Taxing income. Okay, so if someone's worth $100 billion, they're not being taxed on $100 billion. It's not $100 billion of income. That's just their net worth. Last year, the IRS received 120 million calls on certain phone lines during filing season. At times, calls came in at the rate of about 1,500 per second, but our limited workforce was able to answer fewer than 20% of them. Over the last several years, staffing for taxpayer assistance centers decreased so dramatically that less than a third as many as taxpayers are able to receive face-to-face assistance from the IRS than they were in 2016. Well, really, the IRS shouldn't be doing a lot of face-to-face. That's why you have tax partners, right? Require people to go to a tax preparer. There's plenty of people, nonprofits that help in these areas and maybe you set up a special business incentive and design. Instead of having IRS employees, you hire a third-party company that gets funding from the government and they worry about it, not the IRS and their pensions and all the other benefits or so-called benefits that come from the IRS. That's a little more efficient. Okay? There are several ways people can ensure a smoother filing process this year. Filing electronically with direct deposits can avoid processing delays. Well, you just said 90% of taxpayers are filing electronically. Refunds, delays, and later IRS notices, taxpayers should pay extra attention if they received economic impact payments or advanced child tax credits in 2021. The IRS has sent out more than 150 million information letters this year. This will help ensure information is reported accurately. The reality is the IRS is that we know we need to do better. We're committed to doing better, and we are trending in a positive direction. Our employees are doing everything they can, but we need help. As many IRS leaders have stated, for the most of the past decade, without long-term predictable funding, the IRS will continue to be hamstrung. All right. So let's talk about this. Well, first of all, a lot of IRS employees are still working from home. The government has made it very clear that they're not requiring people to go back to work if they're not comfortable with it. Fine. Why don't you upgrade your software systems to see if your employees are working? With cameras today, you can have a camera set up on their computer and you could be recording them doing work. They do it with Fiverr and Upwork and other types of independent contracting softwares and companies like that. So you can prove that they're doing that. Well, that's their private. No, they're a public employee. I, as a taxpayer, pay for their paycheck. I want them to show up. So you can't sit there and tell me that every single one of your employees is working the full 8 hours. You're doing mandatory overtime. All of them or certain departments? So I get IRS notifications. When we do a address change, I get like 5 notifications from the IRS that we have an address change. Great. Thank you, I think. Okay. The key here is that you have 90% of tax filers filing electronically. At some point, rather than trying to keep adding to staff, since filing electronically is more efficient, Maybe you require everybody to file electronically. And if they don't, you penalize them. But you give them the ability, and if you're a business owner and you file papers, shame on you. File electronically. Get it in, get it done. Okay, you can still file an extension. I file an extension. Absolutely. I want to work on my taxes throughout the year when my tax professional isn't inundated and busy with 800 clients trying to get them all filed, these W-2 wage earners filed at a certain time. Okay, so I don't want mistakes on my tax return. Okay, because to the IRS commissioner's point, it creates issues. Absolutely. I want to make sure what I send in is accurate. That's why I file an extension. So those 10% do outside funding. There is options. Rather than sitting up there and saying we need more funding, we've always been underfunded, is just plain downright whining. Okay? I do not sit here and complain to everybody why my business is not doing more revenue than it should be. I'm not sitting here complaining about, what my staff is or is not doing. Granted, I know we're not the same. Totally get it. I understand and respect the amount of communication that the IRS gets. That's not our fault. That's our Congress elected position's fault. They're the ones that keep making the law changes that affect the tax code that affects the IRS having to implement that. Okay? So don't blame us. Don't require us to pay more for you. Maybe we all should be holding our politicians more accountable. Just my thought. So anyways, so hopefully this was helpful. Again, as a business owner, I would highly recommend, if you're not working with a tax professional that's not filing your stuff electronically, you're not filing extensions, I recommend filing an extension. I recommend filing electronically. It will give you the ability to have better, accurate returns submitted. It happens instantly. You have notification that it's been sent. At the end of the day, it is just better for you as a business owner. So as an individual tax filer, I mean, there really is not a lot of difficulty with your tax forms. You need to make sure you get them done and get them in. Don't wait the last minute. That's part of the problem as well. Everybody wants to wait the last minute, right? April 15th. Now it's April 18th. Well, 15th falls on a Friday, so we want to make sure they have the weekend. No, it's the 15th. We all know it's the 15th. Christmas shows up on the same day. Thanksgiving shows up on the same day. All these people know that they go out on February 14th for Valentine's. They somehow have flowers and candy and a card for their significant other. Why can't you just have them required to file and penalize people? At the end of the day, you've created this issue yourself. So we're taxpayers. We know we got to pay our taxes and our fair share. So thank you so much. If you like this content, give us a thumbs up. Add any comments down below. And again, any other topics or information that you want us to talk about, please feel free to put it in the comments. Thanks so much.